Hello, it's my time to welcome you. I want to welcome everybody to our ITB panel of corporate social responsibility. So it's called Innovation and Transformation. We start with recovery and sustainability. You'll see, as we have seen just before, Oman, Sri Lanka, Kenya, everybody wants to recover. But I think it's also very important to talk about how to recover, because can we just continue as we did before? Or is this pandemic just a rehearsal of new problems which will come again and again? I think that also the climate question will be, will influence the future of travel even more than the pandemic. So we really have to find out, is there time to reset? Can it be done? Everybody talks about opportunities, but are there opportunities? How can this transformation and innovation take place? So I'm very happy to have beautiful panelists with me who are experts, all of them. And so I want to welcome my panelists. First of all, I want to say hi to Inge Hujibrechts from the Radisson Hotel. She's with us remotely. Hi, Inge. So
hello.
Let me just
Very
introduce
nice
everybody so that we know whom we talk to. Inge, for close to 10 years, is developing the responsible business and safety and security programs in the Radisson Hotel Group, with more than 1,400 hotels in operation and development in 120 countries around the world. So that's more than 100,000 employees, actually. So she has a Master in Science and Applied Economics from the University of Leuven, Belgium, and an MBA in European Studies from the University of Saarbrücken in Germany. Before joining Radisson Hotel Group, she has held senior management roles across Europe in the areas of CSR, sales and business development, and has been working in Belgium, France, Sweden, and Germany. Thank you, Inge, for being with us and bringing some internationality in our panel. So the second person I'm very happy to have with me today is Dirk Inger.
Hello.
Dirk Inger took up the position of Managing Director of the German Travel Association, a very important association here in Germany, in Berlin in 2014. Before, he was a Deputy Director General for Climate Change, Environmental Policy and Electric Mobility in the Federal Ministry of Transport and Digital Infrastructure. So you have already a background with CSR also. He studied political sciences, German and history at the University of Cologne. He was working in journalism, and since the beginning of 2005, he became head of communication in the Federal Ministry of Transport. And he was a press spokesman for the federal ministers, for some federal ministers. And from 2007 to 2010, he worked in the Federal Transport Ministry as a deputy director. So, wow, that's a long career. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And Petra Thomas, thank you for coming from Hamburg. She's the managing director of Forum Anders Reisen, an umbrella organization for sustainable tourism. So she's an expert if we really talk about sustainability. This association was founded in 1998 and has around 140 members currently. And it's committed to the development and dissemination of sustainable tourism based on content-related criteria that is orientated towards people and the environment. I really appreciate that association, I can say. And she's a graduate in archaeology and art history. And she represented the interests of the Forum since 2010. In 2014, she took over the management. Before that, she was working as a tour operator at A&E Erlebnisreisen, which is also a sustainable operator. Yeah, she's also active on the board of the Roundtable for Human Rights and Tourism. Thank you, Petra, for coming all the way from Hamburg. Nowadays, it's a long journey, actually. Quentin Walesch is here with me. I'm happy that you made it from Munich, or out of Munich. He studied communication, art and design at the Royal College of Art in London and has years of experience as a strategist and creative director. For more than 15 years, he worked in the private sector with BMW, Daimler and Marriott, And since 2018, he has been a partner of Waald Strategy and Advisory, a company that develops strategic narratives for business, politics, and culture. Quentin and his team support, promote enhancement and growth with the help of their own social and cultural relevance. Customers include a large number of top hotels, such as the Trulis Royal Collection on Crete, the Hotel am Steinplatz here in Berlin, and the Hotel U14 in Helsinki. Thank you, Quentin, for coming. And last not least, Professor Harald Pechlaner, who knows tourism both in science and practice since many years. In his practical years, in responsible destination management and marketing of a touristic region, as well as a professor and holder of the chair of tourism, including an affiliated center of entrepreneurship at the Catholic University of Eichstätt, Ingolstadt. And his focus is on destination research. So he's also president of the Association Internationale d'Experts Scientifiques de Tourisme, and has such as well acquainted with global challenges and the international discussions on the tourism science level. So he is also in the German Federal Competence Center for Tourism. I think we have a lot of competence in this panel. Okay, it takes a long time to introduce you guys because there is so much to say. So, yeah, I talked about it already. There is a necessity to rethink and reset. And as everybody states, there are so many opportunities in the crisis. But these are words. Normally I hear a lot of words, but we want to see practices. So where do you see these opportunities? Dirk, can you start?
Yes, I think, to be honest, we are talking about an industry which is in trouble. And sustainability is an important point of that, but I think we first have to save the industry, and that's what the industry is caring about currently, because we have in all the markets all over the world, we see that tourism is declining in Germany by 80 up to 90%. So first we have to think about how to save the industry, and then we have to talk about how to do that together with sustainability.
So do you think that sustainability, including sustainability, can help to reinstall tourism? Inge, what is your point of view, if I may ask you?
Yes, very happy to be in such an illustrious panel, but I absolutely agree with you. I do think that people want to build back better, not just the tourism industry itself, but also consumers. If you look at a recent Euromonitor report, 64% of global consumers say they want to travel sustainably and with a purpose, and that was research done now during the pandemic. So I think we have a lot of opportunities linked to the European Next Gen funding package that has been agreed, that we can connect digitalization and sustainability and safety. And we as an industry can work together across the value chain to make sure that we do this build back better, and that we provide an answer to the consumers who still want to travel sustainably.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's important, because if we do not look at what the consumers say and what the trade needs, then we cannot proceed even with the best sustainability ideas. Quentin, what is your point of view? Which opportunities would you see in this crisis?
I think, first of all, this is what we are seeing right now, the catastrophe. It's difficult to now say this is, and telling people who are struggling to survive how to come back. That's for sure. But I would say even before this pandemic, there were, let's say, weak signals that say, or that you could say this is not going in the right direction. And so I think it's now this pandemic has accelerated maybe these problems that we could now take as a chance to rebuild better, as Inge said. and really focus on what is actually, what creates value, what is the meaning behind traveling, why do we travel, and bringing all this into consideration by addressing sustainability, which of course is not just about, let's say, refillable soap dispensers, but if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, then it's a much more larger and holistic approach to sustainability that we need to take into account.
Mm-hmm. Petra, Petra, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree totally, of course. I think to rebuild the industry sustainable is the only way to go for a future. To really get this kind of resilience we need in our industry, because many people are now suffering from a lack of income. Also, nature is suffering because of a lack of income for the rangers. So the protection of environment now is in crisis as well, not only the industry itself. So rebuilding and rethinking our industry is now the right time to. Because we have the chance after a really breakdown, nothing happens. So now we have to rethink on every single part of the industry and just don't start with the old normal, but rebuilding a new normal and establishing new ideas on how we can foster sustainable development through tourism.
Mm-hmm. Professor Pechlaner, you have been touring Germany lately with your students. You have been on a study trip, and you have been interviewing a lot of destination managers or responsible people for the destinations. So, from a destination point of view, what do you think? Are destinations ready for a new start, or is everybody just thinking of how can I refill the hotel beds?
Well, that's the question of the questions. But we experienced winners and losers for the moment. Then we have to look a bit more in detail the kind of product and services. At the moment, leisure tourism is a winner. Meanwhile, economy-based business tourism elements are losers. But this is only for the moment. I guess that there will be a bigger transformation, and sustainability has a lot to do with the way how we will how we will manage this transformation. What today is a winner is probably tomorrow is not anymore a winner. So, in other words, at the moment, many destinations are, let me say, dealing with the guests who, for the first time, remained in the countries, in their own country. I did the same with my excursion. The last 15 years traveled all over the world. But the first time that I organized an excursion, and it was so great to be in Germany and to see all these different operators and managers trying to keep alive. And definitely, Dirk Inger, I agree. We have on one side to save the industry, but on the other side, definitely at the same time, we have to try to bring the whole industry on a path where they can easily transform. So we have to support them. Sustainability will become a very, very important issue in that regard.
Yeah, but domestic travel is one thing, and domestic travel is strengthening and is good, and at least, people are traveling again within, or at least try to. But it seems like politics today have allowed us to go on to live in hotels, to also take an overnight in a hotel. But when we look at the broader picture, more internationally, the crisis also is a huge problem for developing countries. If we look at our supply chains, Dirk, I think you're also very concerned about supply chains and developing countries, what's happening over there.
Absolutely. First, we can see we have been talking for years about over-tourism. Now we see what the result is of under-tourism, and we see that not in Germany. We see also problems in Germany, but we see mostly problems all over the world in destinations like south of Africa. Many countries are suffering with the lack of tourism and people coming there. We see even social aspects like a rising number of violence within families and things like that. So we see a whole bunch of different results of under-tourism, and we have to keep that in mind because that's a part of social sustainability.
Mm-hmm. Petra?
Yeah, I agree on this. We see with all our partners that in the developing countries, the support from the government of the different countries is not as good as in our destination in Germany. We get a lot of support on financial basis to survive this crisis, but in many other countries there's really no help. So the people are on their own now, and if a whole family depends on the income of tourism, they really need to look for alternatives. And there are no alternatives if a country has no industry and there's no really opportunity to get a job. We see a lot of guides, and especially those who working as freelancers, who are now searching for another industry to get any income, at least just a little bit. And so it will also be a question on a rebuilding if we are missing the qualified people in the industry, because they now looking for new perspectives for their own life.
Yeah, but it also shows us that what always had been a dogma, on responsible tourism thinking, that people should not really depend on tourism, but it should just be an additional income, and create better places to live. I think that's also a little bit what Quentin is trying to say, that if we create better places to live and the people in the destinations are happy with their lifestyle, we can also invite customers to come. And you have a special concept of giving value again to the culture of the destinations, where if it's in Cambodia or in Germany or in Greece. So what is this concept? Can you just give us a short overview?
Well, I think one case we were working on is it's a quite big resort on Crete, and owned by a family of 3 brothers who have been, actually their father has been taking care of sheep, and he said, my vision is within the hospitality. And of course we know that in the Crete soul, hospitality has a huge value. So but they said, and what we discovered is, if you think about a resort hotel, is it just about keeping your guests within the borders of your resort, and then you don't care whatever is happening on the outside, and you have your beach and you have your pools, and that's it. But we said, this is such a rich island with such a rich culture. We need to get the guests outside of the resort and really discover all this, and then also bring the island into the resort and give them the chance to represent themselves, and to, that's the idea of what's creating meaning and what's valuable within your own culture. Yeah.
So away from this all-inclusive model and price fights and whatever, small hoteliers had always a problem, Inge, you are a hotelier. You have the responsibility for so many hotels. Can you give us your point of view? You have been already talking about the consumer view, where the demand of the consumers is changing. There is more demand for real experiences, and as Quentin said, experiences culture away from all-inclusive models. So what is your view for the future of hotels in this sustainable future?
I think, first of all, that the hotels have to continue to build on the sustainability and the strong sustainability programs that we had in normal years. Everybody was moving towards carbon neutrality. We are doing that as well within Radisson Hotel Group. But what I would like to say, and it has been said by some of the panelists already, is that I see three elements in this recovery. I see destination, collaboration, and information. Mm-hmm. On the destination side, I think the recovery will be centered around sustainable destinations where all the partners in the value chain have to work towards sustainability in destinations that want to take a lead in being a sustainable destination. And if you're talking about Europe, then the funding of the Next Gen Europe can actually be linked to the sustainability in such destinations. If you're talking about the emerging markets, as you were mentioning before, I think the collaboration across the value chain, but also of different hotel brands, for example, in destinations, becomes important so that we can all work together in contributing to the sustainability of a destination, whether that is through providing employability programs, reaching out to other industries to help place people who have been trained in hospitality to provide other jobs, whether that is working with guides, with local community projects, etc., to offer this cultural value. There is a measurement system for sustainable destinations, and I think we should all partner to be part of that. And then the last thing I would like to mention is information. I strongly believe that the consumer, as I said before, is the key. So if we can provide a clear rating system for sustainability in destinations and across all the steps in the value chain, then we give consumers that transparency to make the choices for sustainable destinations, sustainable hotels, sustainable guides, sustainable travel companies. But we need clarity. And we need unification in such a rating system. Call it a carbon passport if you want. Today, there's many rating systems, eco labels for hotels, there is carbon footprints for flights, etc., etc. I think we need to come to a very simple system that provides easy transparency to consumers so that they can make sustainable choices.
Thank you. Professor Pechlaner, do you agree, transparency, especially if it comes to carbon emission?
Yeah, I
True
agree.
Transparency.
I agree that
fake.
we need more transparency on that level, no doubt. But what we need is also a stronger focus on issues related to social responsibility. We have to make transparent our business models a bit more. So what we now see is that some business models will not anymore work in an effective way as they did probably in the past. The coronavirus crisis is a booster of other already existing crises. So the financial and economic crisis was not a way, but now with this crisis, especially companies who were in hurry also before, now they have big challenges to face and probably will not survive. This is one aspect. The other aspect is that we need a new form of credibility. I like very much the idea to say one central element is the destination. What we need is a new connection between entrepreneurship and space. The culture of the place, we need much more to develop and look at the needs and necessities of the local people first. And when we know exactly what we like to do in the context of life quality in the living spaces, then we can create something new for the experience spaces of guests and visitors coming in the destinations. But probably this new, let me say, credibility and coherence between who is working in tourism and who is using the spaces with a new deal between people living in the spaces and people coming in the spaces in the regions. I guess this is needed more than in the past.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a must. We have some interesting questions from the audience, actually. I think there is one question for Petra. It says whether now that many long-haul destinations are, it's too risky to go there. So do you still promote them in your marketing, or should the marketing also change? Or would you say that also Forum Anders Reisen, I mean your members, that they concentrate on domestic travel? Because you also said it's so important to go on supporting people in the emerging destinations. So how do you handle that as tour operators?
I think it's not a question on doing whether the one thing or the other. You have to develop tourism worldwide on a sustainable way. Let it be in our country or in Europe or in the world. So we all depend on the possibility of travel. So at the moment where all the countries are closed, of course, also our members look on closer destinations, because there's no other possibility to let people get into their travel and to offer something sustainable and fair for the people. But if we see the development in the next year, it's very important also to look on our partners in the destinations. And we always do both things. It's good to go on domestic travel, but it's even as good to support long-haul flights and destinations, but in a way that we don't get there for just a small amount of money, just getting there and going back and leave no good impact. We really need to focus on how every travel can distribute something to the sustainable development in a destination. And we really cut off the habit of going there just for having fun, doing activities which are not good for the environment and not good for the people. So just change this habit and restart the tourism with products which all contribute to this positive impacts, is the chance for a good tourism worldwide.
But this means that we would also need the support of policymakers in the destinations. So I think it's very important that there's this collaboration, networking. But we can come back on policy a little later. There's another question for Mr. Inger, Dirk. You have been fighting for the industry over the past months. Which measure or campaign was the most successful one? What do you think?
Well, we did a small social media campaign which was called Postpone, Don't Cancel. And we had no budget for that, but our members shared that, and it was very successful, and people of the industry liked that very much. To keep in mind that we want to contain a virus but not prevent traveling, and that's what we have also to keep in mind all over the world. We need the containment of the pandemic, and therefore we need good ministers of health, but we don't need ministers for travel prevention.
Okay, another question for Quentin. When clients ask you to support their shift to more sustainability, do you sometimes have the feeling that's like a greenwashing from client side, or do you really believe that there's a shift already?
To be honest, from my experience, it's not really a shift to more sustainability, because all the clients I've been working with, or lucky to work with, sustainability was always a driving force within their business. It's almost, you would say, it's built in the ethos of hospitality. But it's our task is more about enforcing them and giving them the right tools to addressing and bringing this out to, let's say, a new generation of travelers who value these issues of sustainability and value the meaning behind it. I think this is more our task rather than greenwashing. It's really, from my experience, that's not the case.
I think it's also about educating the client, right? Yeah. Like awareness creating. That's what we try to do also since many years. Mrs. Hujibrechts, Many hotels are faced with occupancy rates of 20% right now. Can the operation be sustainable at all under these circumstances?
Well, I think we need to consider both environmental and social sustainability. Now, of course, the first priority in this pandemic is the health and safety of our guests and our employees. That is the first priority. It depends on what you call sustainable. Of course, our footprint in terms of environment, carbon, water has been reduced because of the reduced occupancy. But we have not forgotten our sustainable foundations, I would say. For example, when we organize meetings, they are still 100% carbon neutral. Whatever we do with rolling out these extra protection measures and safety measures, we still make sure, for example, that our waste is treated in the right way. We still cooperate with platforms where our hotels are open and where restaurants are functioning. We're still cooperating with platforms like Too Good To Go to minimize food waste. So some of these foundations stay. I think the most important thing to do now is make sure that travel can resume safely, like Mr. Inger was saying, and that we can bring the guests back to our hotels. And the better the business base is, the more sustainable it will be also in the long run.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to come back to the question of politicians. What do we expect from policymakers? I mean, from each perspective. First, maybe I can ask you.
Yes,
again.
Well, thank you, Rika. I try to make that very short. I think we need a politics which focus on tests, but not of quarantine, which is a huge problem. And we cannot solve problems of a pandemic, which is spread all over the world within national borders. So we need common health protocols to keep travel possible and contain the pandemic.
Thank you. Harald?
Politics is important, just to define the circumstances, but the industry itself has to try to bring forward now the important issues. Tourism is a sector which is not using so much than others data and empirical evidence as a basis for decisions, and I guess we have to do that. And politics can support this let me say, these tendencies which are needed. Tourism is not used so much to restructure and to re-engineer. So what we are very often, let me say, I also come from this sector, a fair weather business. And now we are in a very defensive situation. We have to restructure and re-engineer and to make critical questions related also to our own business models. But coming back to your question, what can politics do? Absolutely bring back, let me say, normality in terms of trust. We need trust. This is a people business, and people business can only work if we have trust. Fear is not a good recipe for facing this big crisis. And what we need is clear rules. Clear rules so that everyone in a destination and everyone on the source market can understand what he expects and what not. And I guess this is a very important task of the different political levels on national, international, but obviously also on regional and local level.
Thank you. Inge, I want to come back to you once more because I think you're also very active with the European Union and the Commission. You're based in Brussels. So I think there are very good programs and very good approaches from the European Commission and there are so many fundings and why don't we use that properly, or who can use it, or how can we help emerging destinations?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point you're making, Rika. I think recovery funding for mitigating the impact of COVID-19 needs to be linked to sustainability very clearly. And we all have, as partners in the value chain of tourism and travel, we all have the opportunity in Europe to apply for funding of the Next Gen EU in our own countries to make the case for innovations to provide this data on the impacts of sustainability, just like was said before. So recovery linked to sustainability, I think, is the key thing. The other thing which is essential is to collaborate on an industry level. For example, I'm the chair of the executive committee of the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, which is the biggest and the most advanced hotel companies on sustainability working together. We have 13 members. We represent 25% of the global hotel rooms footprint. And we work and continue to work on programs that also have a positive social impact, like prevention of trafficking in specific corridors, protection of human rights, prevention of modern slavery. Those projects continue. They continue in the Middle East, they continue in Central and Latin America, they continue in Southeast Asia Pacific. So the collaboration in the industry and the recovery funding linked to sustainability, I think, is the essential thing I would ask from politicians.
Mm-hmm. Petra, what would you ask from politicians?
Yeah, I agree on what Inge said about funding, especially supporting SMEs, all these small businesses in tourism on their way to get more sustainable is one important driver to get a change into the whole industry. But on the other hand side, we really have to talk about responsibility of businesses itself. It's not a question of voluntary doing something good. We need really also politics for giving policies on the way to implement. And we see there are always a lot of front runners. Always companies are doing it on themselves, but it's not the whole industry on its way. And we need, if we want to really get anybody included in this development, we need more support and we need more rules, especially in the case of human rights.
Regulations, you know, about CSR policies and every business and report and everything. But Quentin, what is your point of view? Is that happening, or is that what would be the solution? Because, you know, we've been talking now, and I think it was a very interesting discussion, because I know we have to come to an end now. So I think we really had all this. We have all these ideas and we know what we need to do, but why is it not happening? Just one short statement, because we have to finish.
I don't see that it's not happening, but I think it's for all of us within the industry to just keep pushing these issues, because there is, I think, a big group of guests out there who value all this in the future. So we should address this.
Yeah, and there are somebody asked, which are, would there be sustainable destinations as a best practice? There are so many best practices already out there. But yeah, we really need to promote them. We need to talk about it. And that is why I'm so happy that you were all here. And that we can use this platform and ITB's platform, hopefully in March as well, because I still believe in the magic of trade shows, that we can meet and talk and network and spread this very important message through all channels. And thank you, all of you, for doing that. And we try to do the same here at We Love Travel Festival. We will have another session later on talking about the social responsibility and recovery, because we were mainly talking now about the environmental aspect, but not only, we were also, of course, looking into the social aspect, because when we talk about developing countries, but we will also look at what the other problems which the world is facing today, like, yeah, racism. Is racism relevant in tourism? But we will do this in 5 minutes. In between, I want to give back to my beautiful Katie Gallos in the studio. And thank you for being here. And yeah, we will keep in touch and we will drive the thing further. Thank you.
Thanks.